Welcome to the Advisor Summit, the podcast where financial advisors gain analytical insights and tactical strategies from the industry's top minds. Adam Holt is a financial advisor, entrepreneur, and founder of AssetMap, a leading financial technology platform that helps advisors communicate complex financial information through simple, visual conversations. With more than 25 years of experience, Adam is recognized for his innovative approach to financial planning and his passion for improving the client experience. The new episode is starting now.
Hi, Adam. Welcome to the Advisor Summit. I am, just excited to get to know more about what you do and how you help advisors, but also just to hear your story and how you kind of came into this industry and are just such an asset to so many people now. Pun intended for AssetMap, but we'll go from there. So, welcome, and excited to talk.
Thanks, Molly, for having me here. It's always fun to spend time with a colleague in the space who's trying to change the planet, who's bring ideas to the table. So I think my own experience, I joke these days that I'm a recovering advisor, and I've been recently getting questions about what does that actually mean? Like, were you addicted? Were you? And the answer is that I think I was addicted to the analysis stuff. That was really what fired me up. I would love doing the spreadsheets. I love doing the analysis. I was like a financial planning junkie. So when I got to go deep, it was like problem solving awesomeness. And then I realized after a couple of years, my clients didn't read my analysis. They didn't value it. They didn't care about it. They just expected me to have confidence around it. And if I had confidence, they would say, okay, that's great. They're not reading 80 pages. So when I joke I'm a recovering advisor, it's kind of recognition that I was doing what was for me, not necessarily for them.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of the epiphany that happened when I showed them what I was also doing for myself, which was the asset map. And they said, listen, we want that. We don't want that huge thing. We want this visualization. It's just much more easier to understand.
Yeah.
Bring us that. So that was how it scaled originally in my own practice.
Yeah. Do you find, honestly, that's such a human element, I feel like also. For us nerds, it's like we want to dig in and self-proclaimed. I love the term nerd. Everyone gets offended by it. But I'm like, it's great. We're in the weeds. We want the data. We want the analytics. But it's such human nature to say, hey, give me the highlights. And I think a lot of that is from the psychology of social media and for the quickness of everything that we're given in this world today. It's very quick and fast-paced, and they don't want to dig into the 80 pages. So I love that you've created a solution that, one, yes, helps the advisor, of course, but two, it's so beautiful for client facing and for them to understand. And you are the expert. Like you said, you have to be understanding of it. Mm-hmm. They don't care. Like, I honestly, if I go to the doctor, I don't want to know 80 pages of notes. I want 3 things that's wrong with me, 3 solutions, and how we're going to fix me. Like, so, which that's a whole, maybe that is 80 pages, realistically, but I think it's important. And for those that maybe aren't familiar with AssetMap, can you just give a quick, brief overview of it? I know it's such an incredible tool for advisors, but just a quick, brief overview would be awesome.
AssetMap has really grown from its original roots, but I think the core problem that we were really trying to solve was, can you find a way to get a financial inventory entirely on one page or one screen? And the interesting thing about the 80-page report is that, when you try to deliver a one-page financial plan, it feels too Neanderthal. It's too simple. You're oversimplifying my life. And so the kind of us as financial advisors seeking a one-page financial plan, we think that's not true. But we do think we're able to do planning on one page. And here's how we interpreted that. We said that there's several things that if you think about our 80-page financial plans, there's probably 5 pages we went to all the time. The first one was the full financial inventory. It was, what do we got working with? It was typically in the form of a balance sheet, which unfortunately ignored income and ignored insurances. So assets and liabilities. So we need to know assets and liabilities. We need to know ownership. We need to know value. We need to know where is it. We do need to know income sources. We do need to know insurances that exist, because those are financial capital decisions that we need to understand. And so they need to be on there. And then we also need to know the people who are in the bus with you, like who are the people that really matter. And if you mash that all together, you get an asset map. So an asset map is a visualization of a household based upon all the people and entities that are part of your world that matter and the reasons we're probably doing these financials. And then your income sources, assets, liabilities, and insurance policies linked literally to the people who control those decisions. So I can see, John has a 401k at Vanguard for 100 grand. Mary has a life insurance policy with Mass Mutual for $2 million with cash value. And that was enough information for me to walk people through their inventory and then ask, does this actually serve you or not? Once I got to that place, they couldn't ignore it.
Yeah.
So I think what happened in what happened in our practice back in 2006 is I started using this instead of my financial planning tool first, and I tripled my revenue that year. And then I did it again, and then I tripled it again in 2008 and 9, and all of a sudden I realized, oh my gosh, we're onto something really big. And that's when we started really investing in the product.
How did you move from being a financial advisor into really becoming an entrepreneur in this space? Because I feel like that transition that you just spoke of might have been kind of difficult because potentially your identity was in financial advising, and now you've created a new way to help firms. So how did that look and how did that work?
It's a funny question because I think the irony behind being a financial advisor is by definition you are an entrepreneur. You don't have inventory. You really have to go eat what you kill. In the early days of financial services, it was a sales commission culture. You had to go get new clients. It wasn't until I think 2000 that you really started, 2002, you saw companies like Merrill Lynch all of a sudden go to asset-based management instead of commissions, and everybody followed suit. And going to the 1% model from, let's say, C shares and things that we were typically trying to jerry-rig to build an advisory practice. But I think once that happened, all of us said, well, this is an opportunity for us to build recurring revenue. And I used that ultimately to fund the product for many years. I was self-funded for a long time. Thankfully, it was a great business. I lived pretty frugally, and we still do at our family. We kind of try to follow what we tell our clients to live well below your means. And I just took that money and invested it in my own businesses. So I think in 2019, I was actually forced to give up my securities licenses because we wanted to go to capital markets. And that's when I finally said, okay, you know what, I've been working 1 day a week in advice and 4 or 5 days a week in tech. I'm ready to make the transition.
Yeah, that's wild though, to put all your eggs in that basket. I'm sure that was a bit of a jump. But
it is, but I think unlike most entrepreneurs, because I had the advisory practice and a fledgling advisory practice for businesses and for benefits, it created enough cash flow that it gave me the security blanket. Don't get me wrong, I look back now at what my practice was and where it probably would be today in the valuations, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I made the wrong investment. But the interesting thing about it is that it really was, I think after 20 years as an advisor, I was kind of feeling like I'm young still, I want to try something different, make a different legacy. So I got the blessing of both, which is really cool.
Yeah, and you get to now help advisors themselves. I think that's a really neat thing. Yes, first you were helping clients, but now you really get to help this whole other sector of people that really do need it. And for a lot of those that maybe listen to this podcast that are newer advisors, where would you begin today? Let's say you did go back and you did want to restart that advisory practice. Is there anything different or any advice to them that you would do, just now being kind of on both sides of that world?
It's a good question. I think I grew up in a different time, right? 28 years is, as I told you, the market was different. We just lived through and have lived through probably the most amazing market ever. Is it going to continue? I have no clue, but I think what is really clear is some of the successful stories I've heard and experienced really leave clues. So the first thing is that you definitely want a mentor. I had 2 mentors that became like father figures. They catapulted my career 10 years easily. And I think being in their network around higher net worth people, I became, I would say, less fearful of approaching people who were, way bigger than me. And I think once I had that experience where I knew what their pain point was, I felt very comfortable in my 30s talking to somebody who was worth, $20, $100 million. And that was because of exposure. That was because of familiarity. And I think that's a big one. We really should be getting mentors faster. Unfortunately, there's a real dearth of role models right now. You got to go find your role models so you can emulate and then, of course, replicate. And I think that's important. So team is super important in my book. Specialization, really key. Find people who want to do the stuff you don't want to do. And of course, look, the biggest challenge with our business if you're starting out is where's the money going to come from? Are you going to take a salary? Are you going to be working on, results? And I think there's some more models today than there ever were, as an employee or otherwise. I really think be part of a team, figure out the business, and then then, take ownership in some form.
Yeah, I love that. I always say too, you should find someone that's smarter than you. I want to look around in the rooms we're in and be like, you know what, I'm not the smartest here, and I love that. You're surrounding yourself with the right people then, for sure. And to take the risk. I mean, honestly, they probably wanted to pour into you as much as you wanted to glean from them. And I think that's a huge piece of the puzzle too. Like, that is a gift for someone to be able to pour into others. And that's, hopefully one day you can turn around and do that for someone, would be my encouragement for sure.
Oh, for sure. There's a great opportunity to mentor and be mentored, and I think it's a culture in our industry, best practice sharing. None of us got here on our own, right? There are definitely moments of clients, other partners, peers, family that have helped catalyze the results anyone who's been successful has had. So I think it's an opportunity to give back. So we got to keep that culture going.
Yeah, I love that about our industry, honestly. Everyone's willing to share. There's never anyone that's like, well, I won't tell you. They're like, here's everything. And I'm like, I actually don't want to see your P&Ls. Like, I'm good. Like, you're good. Yeah, we're okay. So
we don't hang out.
Okay. Yeah. They're a little over. But one of Acid Matt's biggest strengths, I would say, just kind of doing the research and understanding your company, is that you take very complex financial lives and make it simple. Why do you feel like simplicity is such a competitive advantage? And would you recreate it the same way again if you had to redo it?
Oh, I'm a stalwart. I fight for simplicity all the time. In fact, one of the things I've been thinking about recently is, even as long as 10 years ago, advisors would say to me, listen, do me a favor, don't become like the traditional planning tools. Don't overbuild, like keep it thin, keep it simple. And there's two real reasons why that's critical. I mean, look, you've heard the jokes that even Da Vinci said that basically it's making something simple is the hardest thing to do. I don't think, that's not his exact quote, but even Twain mentioned it, that I was going to write you a short letter, but I didn't have time, so I wrote you this long letter. It takes effort and time to get simplicity because you have to decide what to cut. And when we're in finance, we think everything is relevant. Like all details are important. But it's not true, because it turns out it's a classic 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the kind of really important things are dictated by 20% of the inputs. Same thing with kind of revenue. If you look at your client base, 80% of your revenue tends to come from 20% of your clientele. And that Pareto principle has been around for some 200 years. It's an interesting thing, and I think if we could find a way to get to that 20%, 30% of the relevant information, we get really far. I think the key for us is, how do you accelerate the conversation with trust by putting enough information that we're not leaving out something critical, but not too much that we're feeling that we're creating an intimidation factor. And there's a beauty in it. I call it simple rich. It's a design principle that I came up with. That it's got to be simple, but it also has to be rich, because it can't be simplistic. And that's the line we're always trying to get, because our clients are professionals who hold themselves up to a certain level of technical acumen, and I'm not putting a Fisher-Price thing in front of a client and saying, take me seriously. So there still has to be some level of technical relevance, for lack of a better word.
No, I love that. How did you decide when creating Acid Matt what was simple rich versus what was simple fluff, I would call it, where it just didn't really matter? But because I'm sure you're looking at, thousands of inputs and going, what should we narrow it down? How did you come up with that decision?
I came up with it, I can't say that I came up with it out of the gate. I just kept testing, because I tested it in my own practice, and I had the software that I built, and I had all the drawings that we designed and had copyrighted back even in 2002. And so I was literally working on it, changing it, altering it. Like if I was in a meeting with you and you gave me that feedback, I would change it for the next client. Like it was rapid iteration for me for many, many years before we even built the software around it. And then once you build a software, you're building in rigidity, because now you're trying to scale, and that becomes even more annoying, because you have to decide for everyone what is the right amount of information, what's too much and too little. And I think that the key that we learned over that time, not to give away secret sauce, but is it turns out that there are 5 things that you need to know about every financial instrument that matters. Once we get to 6, I don't get any really more utility. It's like that's the 20%. And once I go to 4, I go from 80 to like 50. So here's what it was. It's what is it? Like, for example, I own an IRA. I have a checking account. I have a house. I have a life insurance policy. Okay, what is it? Okay, who is it for, or who owns it, or controls that decision? Let's say it's me or you. Molly has an IRA. Where? Well, she has it at Vanguard. Okay, great. She has it at Vanguard. What's it worth? How much capital has she assigned to that instrument? 100 grand. I'm making these numbers up, right? Okay. And then lastly, what is the tax wrapper, right? The single biggest impact on cost is going to be its tax wrapper, not fees, not, I didn't say, what are you paying? By the way, nobody knows what they're paying. What are you holding in
No.
it? Nobody knows what they're holding in it. They know those 5 things. What is it? I got an IRA for Molly at Vanguard worth 100 grand, and it's a qualified IRA. It's not a Roth. Okay. With that information, I know what question to ask you next. If I'm we'll call it a competent advisor. That's all I need to know, times however many financial decisions you have. And now I'm really dangerous. Now, if I had something like, oh yeah, and it's in the S&P 500. Okay, that's valuable, but it's not critical.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to challenge every single assumption and say, does that serve you? Does it make sense to have money there? And before I even talk about allocation or fees or whatever, the stuff that we typically argue, I can have an intelligent conversation about, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? Why are you doing this? Is there was this? Have you checked the beneficiaries? Right? We can go deep. And I put that depth on the human advisor, not on the tech.
Yeah.
So that's how we elevate the human to be still relevant instead of techifying everything and being like, why do I even need you, human? I just fill out the form myself.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is a very trust-centered relationship that I find. So it's as much as everybody talks about how AI is going to take over and AI is going to, and I'm like, it's just not, because it is a human-to-human business. And money is probably one of the most valuable but also kind of fears that people have going into retirement, and it's huge. And so I get so curious when people talk about AI, because I'm like, yes, it's a need, but it's not going to take over the advisor. So I love you still have the human side. I always say genuine human connection is the new currency. They're gonna crave that, and you want to have tech that supports it, but also the human that helps them. They're not buying your tech, they're buying your humanness and how you understand the tech, and that's a good piece of the puzzle there. So I love that asset map makes it simple though, and gives the advisor that option. Yeah, I trust. You're like, we went through a lot to get it there, but I think it's, and everybody now wants to make bigger, better, faster, stronger, and sometimes it's the reverse that's needed. It's, let's go back to basics. Let's go back to the who, what, where, when, and figure out exactly why it matters and if it matters to have. So I think that's huge. You also mentioned just scaling and kind of, I mean, AssetMap's grown considerably. We see you all over the internet, and you see yourself all over the internet. But yay, it's growing, it's impactful. We've seen partnerships come along. We've just seen you really build amazing things and scale to a really successful place. And I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, that's a tough thing to understand. What are some of maybe the challenges that you face scaling, and some of the wins also? I never want it to be all negative. I want to prep people like, hey, it's not all rosy colored glasses. It is difficult. Yeah, you're like, I've cried once or twice, once a quarter. But what are some of the challenges, and what are some of the wins and just the joys that you feel in this space?
Well, look, if you're asking, being an entrepreneur is a very special kind of thing, right? Especially when you're putting your heart and soul into it. I've recently done a lot of work on fatherhood with my fatherhood group called Rebel Dads, and a book that just came out. And one of the things that we keep seeing is this correlation between leadership in all aspects, both at work and at home. And the reason I bring it up is because if you have a family, you recognize that all of us are entrepreneurs, because most of us have been a parent. Like, there's a first time when you were a parent, or if you were, and you realize you don't know what you're doing. It's all your capital at risk. It's all your time. It's all your energy, and it's all your passion. And you do a lot of things that make no sense economically because it feels right. And I think that entrepreneurship is very similar. If you've been an established entrepreneur and you've had multiple companies, you actually approach it differently, less emotional. You understand how to do it. And actually, that's not surprising. By your 4th kid, you're kind of like, all right, no, it's old hat. Like,
we're not going to stay home for 12 weeks. Like, we're going to take a day too.
Protect it from, getting hurt in all costs. And it's really strange, true, how familiarity. Now, why is that relevant? I think for me, this will be my 3rd company, and I have 1 child. And I always joke that thank goodness I had the companies first, because I experimented on the companies. I was much more comfortable when she came around. Like, uncertainty is easy, but I think that's the real key, is getting comfortable in uncertainty as an entrepreneur, not knowing where the next dollar is coming from. And I think I started as a salesperson. I kind of got used to that and knew that I wanted to, kind of blaze my own path and have unlimited upside, and have more time. But I think the bigger challenges for me as I've scaled is learning to let go. And I think that's very similar to parenthood as well. Is like your kids get older, they don't need you the same way.
Yeah.
Your business gets older and more mature, if God willing you make it there. And then all of a sudden you've got 10 people, then you've got 20 people, then you got 50 people, and then you need different things. You need a bigger house, you need extra cars, you have capital expenses you didn't even think about. You're like, wait, we just got here, now we got to spend this to get to the next level. So I think that there's a really kind of an interesting path to recognize you're constantly in or out of your comfort zone, which is, for me, I never wanted to give up control, but I have now gotten to the place with a lot of coaching, maybe therapy, that I have only one person that reports to me. The president of AssetMap reports to me, and I've given up all management oversight of AssetMap except for one person, and the board, obviously. And that has freed me up to all of a sudden take the helicopter and zoom up in a way that I've never been able to. Because I was so busy in the weeds, like, no, we got to fix this pixel, and this dot is here, and I want to put a comma here. And they're like, Adam, get out of here. Like, you hired us to do it. I'm like, but I have to make it look a certain way. Otherwise, it's not me. And that's the thing, is getting to that place where you're like, you know what, kid, you need to move out. You need to go start your own life.
Yeah. And you hope you've raised them. You hope you've raised them well enough. I mean, whether your kid or your teen, you hope you've raised them to understand, hey, this is what the Holt family does. This is who we are. Totally. This is how we do it. And within that, I feel like there's also, that 80-20 balance. Like, maybe it is 80% the whole way, but there's also joy in having someone bring their 20% vision in too. And you're like, it's good. It's not what I would have done, but it's great. And letting people fly and be free. And that's awesome. So I think delegation's huge. So was it hard?
That's how you basically, get new, you discover new recipes, right? You get someone who marries into the family and all of a sudden brings a whole nother culture and a taste. And you're like, wow, the only exposure I would have had is because I finally stopped saying I have to cook every meal. It's constantly scary because I feel like I still know what's best for the family, but have to recognize, I'm still recognizing it, maybe actively in this conversation, like, okay, what else my president would say, you need to find more to let go and to free us up so we can actually run and be more flexible in ways I just don't know yet. And you got to be willing, again, outside of comfort.
Yeah. And I love that your comment, you said get comfy in uncertainty. I think that's huge. And I'm curious too, I don't know if you do the EOS model, but it sounds like you are by nature more of an integrator. You like to get in the weeds, see the stuff, and you've really had to move into more of that visionary role and be up 10,000 feet and say, okay, what's best for the business as a whole?
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. So I'm very familiar with the US, and so in all my companies, I'm the visionary. The challenge with me is that I didn't always trust the integrator role until I found one that really complemented me. My president is a true integrator. He loves being the guy behind the scenes. I like being the guy in the front. And so we have a great, we'll call it work marriage that I think works. And now for every single organization that I still have, we have an integrator because we know that we like to stay in vision and what we can do, and we're not going to execute at this scale anymore. We need help.
No, you do. And to find good people is the biggest blessing, honestly. I mean, you just have to find those people, and it's big. So you mentioned rebel dads. I want to hit on this because I think parenthood is one of the greatest blessings we have here on earth. And it's so true that it really complements entrepreneurship, and you just learn lessons along the way and hope you do well for your kids. So kind of talk about to us what the purpose of rebel dads is and kind of how it works and how it helped you lead better.
The purpose of Rebel Dad started out pretty selfishly. It was both Derek and I, my buddy and podcast co-host for Rethink Financial Advice. We kept sharing, when you're in a podcast, you have opportunity to spend time with each other off camera, right? You're set up, you're getting together. You know that you probably spend twice as much time off air. And we just kept talking about, our roles. Our kids are the same age almost exactly by 4 days. And also he was a recovering advisor, also started a tech company. So we had a lot of familiarity or similarity rather. And then he kept talking about, he felt kind of alone, especially during pandemic as a man trying to build a business and not having an outlet, and a lot of people had moved everywhere and nobody was available or around. You had to like schedule time with your friends. Like you couldn't just go to your neighbor's house and hang out and talk about the stuff, right? And golfing was like separated. So he said, you know what, I really want to do something on with Richard Branson. He's always respected him. He's like, you know, total like well-known person. We have no connection with him. And he reached out.
I was like, he went from like 1 to 100, like real fast.
Well, that's what Derek does. He's a consummate fast start if you follow Colby at all. So he just does it. He doesn't even think, he just does. And he actually wound up writing to Richard on his Ask Me Anything on LinkedIn, and Richard responded to him. He asked about how did you manage being a dadpreneur. He used a mashup word, and Richard wrote back on it, talked about his daughter Holly and what he did with Sam, his son. And Derek used that after it got millions of views to reach out to Virgin and request, took about 1.5 years, renting Necker Island, his island in the BVI. And he called me up. He's like, Adam, I rented Necker Island. Now we need to find people who can go with us and we can afford it. And I was like, okay, fine. And
you're like just a casual call from
Yeah.
Derek. That's just how it goes.
Right. It was not a small invoice. And the bottom line is that we then used our network to put together a group of CEO dads that wanted to go and just talk about fatherhood and being an entrepreneur while being a parent. And so we built the dads group. I think, you know, that you fast forward, that was 4 years ago. We're actually going back for our 4th trip with Richard. During that time, we interviewed him all 3 times that we were there, and we came up with so many different lessons and hacks and best practices that we learned, games and tips and tricks and attitudes, mindsets, that Richard said, like, this is really cool. How are you going to help more dads? Like, not these 30 guys. How are you going to help more dads? And we said, well, we'll write a book. You want to write a book? And he's like, okay, let's write a book. So we wrote a book, and then we just spent the next year interviewing 100 dads and asking how they manage fatherhood from their own childhood on. And that's what we just published last month, is a book where we interviewed 100 people about learning tips of leadership at home and work. And it's a huge milestone, and I can't even believe we did it.
I'm so proud. Like, that's such a cool thing to check off. And like, I just think we're called here to serve and bless other people. And now how many other dads don't have to feel alone because they found Rebel Dads and they found, hey, I feel that too, or that's normal, or that's not weird, or, you know, I also struggle with that, or I also love that, you know. So I think community is huge, and especially, I mean, from the pandemic, I think we can see there's so much necessary need for the human element of life. So I love that. What about the moms? Nothing for the moms? What the heck, man? You're like, not my role.
They're the only reason why we can exist. You know, the funny thing about it is we've had a lot of requests for Rebel Mom concept or something, you know, complementary or even better. We felt as men like there was it's interesting. There was 2 things that were popping up for us. One was the number of men who felt lonely and never talked about it.
Okay.
And number 2 was the fact that there are so few mentors out there that I think are worthy of following it. And because men have evolved, I think, a lot relatively, kind of trying to figure out what's their role anymore. And I think those have been good things. At the same time, there's no precedent. And so we needed to provide a community where dads could talk out their issues, get smacked in the, like step up, time to step up, time to be a man, stop wimping out. And they needed to see that in action so that they could follow the recipe. And I think most of us were like, we kind of know what to do, but we need a community to help keep us accountable. And not just what you should have done, but it in your heart now to go do it. And so we're hoping to actually elevate, men actually being even bigger contributors than they have been, I think, for a long time. And that's an area where I think societally we need help. We got to provide a framework.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. How do people get involved with that? I mean, is it open for anybody to join? I mean, I'm just thinking selfishly about my own husband. Would love a community like that. So.
Yeah, it is. Well, okay, yeah. So is there a requirement? No, there's no requirement right now.
Well, you should probably be a dad, actually.
You probably should be. I mean, we do our best to try to ask that question. Are you a father? Are you a male? That's pretty binary. But in the sense that, yeah, you can go to rebeldads.com, and we even have an app now, so you can download an app. We're building an accountability app, kind of think like fatherhood Fitbit. Like,
Love
can
it.
you, like, what are you actually doing to contribute to your kids this week, or your spouse, or your mission, or your faith? Like, what are you actually doing intentionally, or are you just like kind of winging it, or are you just not doing anything because you don't know? So
Yeah.
the key is to kind of be short of coaching, but also create peer accountability and connection. So you can, just like Facebook, you can talk to other dads,
Yeah.
you can get into groups, but none of your data is in Facebook, because we didn't want any of that
Totally.
stuff. So we said we have to build our own app, and we did it as a community project, and all the dads literally just volunteered, and we have some real
That's
big
awesome.
players in Rebel Dads, like serious CMOs or CTOs that people know, and they just built it. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool what we've been able to do, and so that's how you do it. You get the app and you download the app, and then if you want to be part of the community, you can join. And it's pretty simple.
It's amazing. I love it. And I just think it shows the heart of people need help, and like there's a framework there and people don't know what to do. So like, let's give them a checklist almost that says, okay, this is where to start. And then you
Yeah.
increase the next level, and then you're ready for the next level. I feel like it's similar to weightlifting. You don't go in picking up the hundreds. You know what I mean? Like
It's
sometimes you
little.
gotta take the fives. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's
I
huge.
think
So
it's funny. We did learn though, for most, I would say most people, like in this attention deficit world, whether you got it officially or whether you've learned it as as a power up, I think one of the things that we did have to focus on, and it's not too dissimilar from financial advice, right? We ask our clients advice to do major things like start saving $2,000 a month. They're like, I got to find like an extra 50 here. So,
yeah.
those are really big, tough changes. But if you can get a client to start with 50 and then go to 75 and then go to 100 and then buy a little insurance and then start investing, right? It's the small steps that they actually do that after a long period of time add up to a real big difference, right? Just like that plane makes a slight difference change, of course, today, it's going to wind up in a very different place after time. And so what we did is we asked each of the interviewees, what are 3 things that we can take from this interview that someone could do in the next 24 hours? Just something small. Just simple things like one guy said he gives his kids affirmation. So he said, listen, just in the next 24 hours, go to your kid, think of something that they care about that they're proud of, and just tell them how proud you are of them. Like something really simple. And then just don't expect anything back, and then just like walk away. Like don't say it's like tit for tat. Like this is not an exchange. This is a gift.
Yeah.
And just do that and see what happens, and then try something else tomorrow. And then schedule. Don't do a meeting. In fact, just call them, say like, we're going to spend the next 2 hours. Where do you want to go? You want to go ice cream? You want we're going to do that together. Just you and me. And you just invest in the relationship. And it's the small things that become memorable for sure.
Isn't that interesting though? I think sometimes as parents we think, oh, it has to be this grandiose gesture. It has to be Disneyland. It has to be this. It's like, if I ask, and granted they're 5 and 6, so their worlds are very small, but if I ask my kids today, like, what was your favorite memory? It's like, oh, going to the creek. Like something that's free, something that we just, like fishing, which like not free because I'm scarred by worms, but it's a whole thing. But like just that simple of things are like, that's what they love. They don't remember the trips or this or that. It's small things. And how awesome, even affirmations, that's free and takes 3 seconds to do with your kids.
Great.
Like, it's not that hard. It's
Well,
not that
who else
hard.
might appreciate that too? Maybe our employees might
Your
appreciate that. How about
spouse, your employees?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
the people in your world, like even your parents. I mean, what do we stop what we're doing and just call our parents and tell them that we love them, we care, and we appreciate? Like, there's this thing that you did for me once, and I just wanted to tell you how much it impacted me, and like, that's it. I love you. All right, see you later. Gotta go.
I know. My mom would be like, "What's wrong?"
Right.
She'd be
She
like,
might start
"Are you
crying
lying?"
too. It might be the most memorable part of her day, the biggest gift you could have given her. But we forget to do those little things, and we have 300 of them. So there's, you can find what works for you. What if it's too small to you? Okay, fine, don't do that one. But that's the key, is that we should start. Hey, we're not the only ones here, and I think that tends to happen. We get a little bit myopic, and we forget that we're not alone.
Yeah, I love that. What is, just, I mean, in general, kind of as we wrap up here, maybe a quick lightning round also. What is maybe outside of Rebel Dads, what is one of your favorite books that you've read either in parenting or in leadership that you feel like can help people as well in this journey with advisories and leadership?
Funny.
It's hard. I know there's
The
many
most,
books.
it's funny, the book that I have thought of the most recently is the book Quit by, of course, I'm going to forget this now. It's in my phone.
Okay, we have Google, we have ChatGPT.
Yes, yeah.
People can find it now.
Oh man, that embarrasses me because here I am now an author and I can't remember an author's name, which is on the tip of my tongue. But you'll remember who it was because she was a
Yeah.
poker champion and she talked about the word quit, and it was all about when to actually fold. And I think
Love
one of
it.
the challenges for, at least for me, the reason why it resonated is actually Brian Portnoy actually recommended I read it from Shaping Wealth. And at a conference, we were on a stage,
Yeah.
he's like, check this book out. So I did, and I loved it because it talked about a topic of knowing when to fold, right? How do you know? Because for most of us that have some level of grit, we're like, go in until like we're bloody and covered in mud. And it's until, you'll go until, right?
Yeah.
And knowing when to say, okay, this investment strategy is not working, or this action strategy is not working. So I thought that was really helpful.
I love that. No, and that's helpful. And I mean, we agreed, we'll go until it's bloody and then we'll wipe it off and say we need a Band-Aid when you actually need surgery.
But it might not,
So,
but that time might have been better spent somewhere else, or you can't recover it,
Yeah.
that capital's gone, like, so you have to recognize you're making a decision. By the way, that's the same thing with investments, right? Very few people have an exit strategy. They just know when to buy, but they don't ever sell. And then therefore, that's not the full picture, so we need to help them there.
Yeah, I love that. Biggest opportunity you think advisors are missing?
Oh, well, I mean, the mathematical argument is that they're not talking to upper generation. The clients the advisors that I talk to do not have a strategy, an action, a plan, a nothing for talking to our clients' parents. And that's where the money is. We all know this generational
Yeah.
wealth transfer is, but I think the challenge is advisors don't know how to start that conversation. And I'll tell you, here's what I'm telling advisors to say. You have to ask your clients the question: are you the executor of your parents? Are you the trustee of your parents? And I guarantee you they probably don't know. I don't
Yeah.
guarantee it. For the number of times I've asked that question, right? Because I can't guarantee anything. Past performance is not an indicative
Fair.
of future result.
Yes, man, like
Something like that,
semantics.
right? But here's the thing: the reality is that if we're actually a fiduciary, we're protecting our clients, and they're going to become a executor, executrix, or trustee, and they don't know it. It means they probably don't. They're going to basically get a job that they may or may not want. That's going to have family drama. That's going to have siblings that are like, "Where's my money?" You're going to
Yeah.
deal with the fact, I don't know where mom and dad's stuff is. So let's map mom and dad now. Let's
Yeah.
not do a financial plan. They're probably not going to sit down for that, but they'll do a treasure map. And so we think that if you can reveal the current complexity that mom and dad that you're going to have to manage, now's the time to clean that house and do spring cleaning. Because it means
Yeah.
beneficiary designations, it means ownership, it means tax, it means why are we doing this? Long-term care, do we have long-term care? Or is there life insurance? Is it going to even be there by the time we get it? So there's so many opportunities to capture capital by just revealing the main problem, which is you have no idea what that job is going to look like, and I need to help you now.
Yeah, and honestly, the parents of those, clients are probably thankful. Like I just even have watched my
Yeah.
parents go through that. I'm one of 6 kids, so obviously there's a ton of questions always. And it was like they designated everything. Like they are like very like
They're on
this
it.
is who gets. They're just on it. And they said they felt so much relief and so much joy in that. So that there are no questions. There are no, hey, what happens here? What happens here? And
Yeah.
it's funny too. Like everyone says they love their siblings. Our family's very close. So you hope that if your parents die, it's like no, it's okay. Like if you wanted that, great, have it. But I've seen it happen over and over and over again where siblings turn on each other and then they don't talk to each other. So I think it's hugely smart to go after the client's parents. That's just a big thing for their sake also, genuinely.
For sure. You want to make sure that those assets, if you care about asset management, don't pass to their other siblings' kids, or they get
Yeah.
split up and they become de minimis. I mean, sometimes keeping family wealth is really important. We've seen so many wealthy families that they just lose it all by second, third generations because
Yeah.
nobody asks good questions. And that's an important role. I think we're going to see more humans play as AI becomes more math driven and just takes over that analytics side. We got to ask the hard questions, like, if that happened, are your kids going to be getting together for Thanksgiving after this? Like, it's going to be mess. They're going to be fighting, and that's not what you want from a values or a moral standpoint. That's not what you built a legacy around.
No, that's huge. Kind of last question here. Best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, best.
This is a tough one.
Advice.
And you had two good mentors, so.
It's funny because my mentor told me, and he just called me. I just saw his phone number pop up. He told me when I went to get my MBA, he said, don't waste the money on your MBA. Spend the next 2 years learning the business, hands in the dirt. Spend that $50,000 on your practice instead of spending it 2 years learning how to run a manufacturing company. I didn't listen to him, by the way. I did both, but he's right. I wound up wasting my money. I'm not saying everybody like that your MBA is worthless, but mine was generally worthless.
Yeah.
But
even a lot of college degrees now. I feel bad. I'm like, what are you going to do with that? I'm like, our family's a little more blue collar, so I'm like, you go do fires and tires, baby. That's what we stand for.
Yeah.
But it's all good. So
I don't know if that's the best advice, but it is something memorable for sure.
Yeah, and that's huge.
Invest in yourself.
So, we're so excited also that your book came out. I think that's a huge accomplishment for this year. Obviously huge. If anyone wants to buy it, where's the best place to go find it? And to kind of tell us how, if they want to get in touch with Asset Map, how to find you.
Look, the book is on Amazon, so you just type REBL, or you type in Holt, you'll find it. That's my name. Even Branson, I think it might come up. But yeah, please feel sure. I think it's a great gift for dads because it's not intimidating. It's not like here's what you should have done to be a better dad. It's here's what you might think about doing if you feel like it. So read these stories. Either way, you'll be inspired. For us, Asset Map is asset-map.com. Certainly, you can Google us. We're pretty much all over the place, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And I think we're really trying to help advisors have better financial conversations. That's not intimidating, and it's really engaging, and it's fun. It feels like a Lego project, so everyone can be part of it, and that's really important today. Everybody's got to have like a place at the table, and LinkedIn is the best way to communicate with me. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. If you find me, just follow me or connect with me. I'm happy to talk.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. You were just a fun person to talk to, so this was a good one.
Thanks, Mo. I appreciate your effort and all the things that you're doing with Track That Advisor. Fantastic stuff.